Welcome back, 8:40 right now. Well, civilization has celebrated New Year's Eve for at least 4,000 years. So, how did it all get started, and what are some of the good luck traditions? Shari here with us this morning to help usher in a prosperous new year. Thanks for joining us. And so you've got some good information for us here. First, we want to talk about how we've celebrated New Year's Eve over this long period of time. Has it always been December 31st?
You know, that's a really interesting question. So way back when, the time for the celebration was tied more to astrological and agricultural events. So the ancient Babylonians, for example, celebrated New Year's actually during March, which was timed with sure, it was like the first new moon after the vernal equinox. The Egyptians celebrated it when the Nile overflowed. The ancient Chinese celebrated it during in sync with the winter solstice. So it really varied from time to time. It wasn't until actually recently that we started celebrating now. In fact, in 46 BC is when Julius Caesar sort of brought some mathematicians and astrologists together and created the calendar we use now. That actually created December 31st. Before then, December 31st didn't even exist, and it wasn't until Pope Gregory came around in the late 1500s and he said, December 31st, January 1st will be the beginning of the new year. But there's still a lot of cultures that celebrate it on different days. The Jewish religion, Chinese cultures have different days than us.
It's amazing to think about how so much time has passed, and we're so conditioned to think December 31st.
It's been forever.
That marks the new year, but it's interesting to look back. Now, have we always celebrated in the same way?
Well, that's interesting too, because the ancient Babylonians celebrated New Year's as a much more religious type of event, including with dedications to the gods and even human sacrifices. The Romans turned it into a political event, as they did with a lot of things. So it was more about sacrifices to the emperor or gifts to people that you wanted to get favors from. And of course, it wasn't until recently that New Year's has become really an event to celebrate friendships and family. And some of our rituals have actually carried over from the Romans, though.
So what are some of those good luck type things that you can do, the things you want to do to have that prosperous, happy new year?
Well, some of those rituals have evolved in different cultures. There are some people who eat grapes, the 12 grapes, there's lentils, there's different shaped cakes, all kinds of different things that have evolved mostly over the last few hundred years. We can trace, for example, the Yuletime log to Roman bonfires. The mistletoe has been traced to Druid rituals with mystical type rituals. There are other ceremonies that we follow. For example, the song that we sing for old acquaintance be forgot is a Scottish song. And then, of course, our most iconic ritual, which is the Times Square Ball, didn't even begin until the early 1900s. So that was something, it wasn't even a thing for our grandparents. And that is tied to actually when the New York Times opened their headquarters in Times Square. Before that, it was fireworks down at Trinity Church. They were afraid of the fires. So what we consider the most iconic worldwide event is really just brand new.
Wow, that's really interesting when you really look back at how it all came together. Very good.
And fun, fun. And you look back, particularly at that ball in Times Square, I think that's really interesting. So 1908 was the first ball. There were only 100 lights on that ball, and they were regular old-fashioned light bulbs.
Oh, my goodness.
Today, we're using actually the fifth ball, over 10,000 lights, and all kinds of LEDs and electronics, and we can use symbols and messaging in it, and all kinds of things that didn't even exist back in the 1900s. Interesting.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for that perspective, Shari. We certainly appreciate it, and wish you a very happy New Year.
You too.
Thank you so much. Felicia?